Hey vinyl community, Elliot here, Lazy Dogs Records, and today I'm going to review an album by Molly Tuttle, I'd Rather Be With You, and this is uh, her most recent album. In fact, it just came out on the 29th of August. I got my copy, I pre-ordered this and got my copy in. It's on Compass Records, and she signed these first copies and before they were sealed up. And of course, as often is the case, the first pressing is limited edition, and you can see they're kind of a purplish uh, look to the vinyl there, see-through purplish, and the album has kind of a purplish look to it as well. And it is on Compass Records. And first, before I go too deep into the album itself, uh, it, for those that aren't familiar with Molly Tuttle, I think she's 27 now. She grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area to a very musical family. There was a family band, a bluegrass band, headed up, of course, by her father, which she and her brother played in growing up. So she's been playing professionally since she was about 11 or 12 years old. And after high school, she went to Boston to the Berklee School of Music, graduated from there, and has been a full-time professional musician since then. She is very well renowned as a guitarist, along with being an excellent songwriter and vocalist. But her guitar work is what got her the most notice to begin with. In fact, in 2017, 3 years ago, she was voted Guitar Player of the Year for the IBMA, International Bluegrass Music Association. And she's been awarded all kinds of awards for guitar play. She plays flat picks. She finger picks too. She does what's referred to as claw hammer guitar sometimes, which involves some frailing of strings. I'm not expert enough to go into too much detail about that, but she is an amazing guitarist as well as an excellent vocalist and composer. Well, next I'd like to talk to you about the album concept. Uh, of course, we're living in a pandemic right now, and she got, for the first time in her life, really, her adult life, she wasn't on the road touring and playing with other musicians and things like that. And she got a little down and out about it. So she said in order to inspire her and get her to pick the guitar back up and start playing again more, she started going back to some of the music that she enjoyed over the years by other artists and stuff that went back to her middle school days and on forward. But so she selected for this album, she selected 10 songs by other artists. Now she is, as I said, a songwriter, so this is a departure for her to do other people's work. But a lot of these bands I don't really know much about. I didn't do background on the bands, the original compositions, how they were performed originally. Some of them I knew, obviously. Some of them don't have a clue about, but I'm sure a lot of you do, especially folks younger than me. People of her generation, I'm sure. The National, there's a song by the first song on here is by the National. Uh, the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, no clue. Rancid got me. Harry Styles, I've heard the name, but I don't really know anything about Harry Styles. She does a Harry Styles song here. Karen Dalton, I don't know who Karen Dalton is. Let's see, but some more familiar. She does a Grateful Dead song on here, Garcia Hunter composition. She does Rolling Stones, Jagger Richards composition on here. And so it's an interesting album that she did both to pick her up in this difficult pandemic time and to offer those of us living through the pandemic something that she hopes will invigorate us and make us feel good and joyful and happy. What more could you ask for, right? Joyful and happy. Now, the album is on Compass Records, and when I opened it up, as I said, it was sold as signed by Molly, and it is. So it was sealed. I opened the seal up, and there was the signature. So she evidently went into where they pressed them, signed, a couple of thousand of them or something. I'm sure that was time consuming. And then they ran it through the shrink wrap before the final process was run through the shrink wrap. When I opened it up, I always clean my records, even a brand new record. I found that the quality control on new records leaves much to be desired. So I just clean them. I go through my normal cleaning process, clean this one up, and put it on the turntable. And it plays well, but there are some a minor amount of surface noise between songs, and in a couple of quieter places you can hear just a little bit of crackle or pop for just a second, just a moment. So I mean, that's a product you get. It's a sign of the times, I guess, that we would have that as an issue for a brand new album. But nothing to distract from the music at all, really. I probably wouldn't have noticed it if I hadn't been really listening very closely. But the album starts off with a song by The National called "Fake Empire," and to me, this song it comes across as very with the use of some modernistic sound effects within the song. The emphasis here is on Molly's vocals. We really don't get a sense of her guitar work at all on this song. I don't think the percussion is out in front on this album, or on this particular song on this album, and it's a good song. I will say this going forward, there's while her background is in bluegrass, there's nothing bluegrass about this album. This is not a bluegrass album. I'd call it a modern folk album. I think would be a good description of it, falling in the broad category of Americana. Okay. The second track is one I think everybody will probably recognize. She's a Rainbow, which is the Rolling Stones song. And she described this in her interpretation of the song. And she said, I've never been a big classic rock fan, so she wasn't, she said, I probably couldn't name you 10 Rolling Stones songs, but she really liked this song, and so she included this. She called this a love song to all feminine beings, she thought. And I think that's a pretty good description. This whole album I would describe as a very feminine album, not that it's not appealing to only, not that it's only appealing to females. By no means am I saying that. It's a very appealing album to everybody, but there's no testosterone in this album whatsoever. Okay, it's very much from a female perspective, the whole album, and it's really enjoyable. I really like it, but I'll say more about that toward the end. But I would describe it, and this is maybe because I'm most familiar with this particular song. On first listen, this is the song that really jumped out at me, and I think I liked it the most. It was light, it was airy, it was ringing through sound, light and airy sound. Her guitar stands out in this one, and that's what I'm looking for when I'm listening to Molly Tuttle. I want to hear her guitar work. The other instruments don't play a prominent role. They stay in the background and do their function in their necessary ways, while allowing Molly to utilize her guitar work and her vocals. And it's a very enjoyable song. The third song on here is a song called A Little Lost by someone named Arthur Russell, who I'm not familiar with. And she leaves room in this song for the vocals and the guitar. Uh, and it's just a nice pleasant song. I enjoyed this one. The fourth song on side one is Something on Your Mind, which is the Karen Dalton song, which is not composed by her, but evidently she was the original performer for this song. Some Dino Vanelli wrote this song. But this is a moody song, kind of seductive, and it utilizes the pedal steel guitar very well in this. Throughout this album, the pedal steel guitar plays a pretty prominent role. So I probably ought to tell you who's playing the pedal steel. A fellow named Richard Hyman, Hinman. Richard Hyman is on the pedal steel, and it doesn't. Much of it is not in traditional pedal steel sound, but more for an atmospheric purposes to provide, not the pedal steel like you would hear on a country record. Okay, it kind of floats on top of the music and creates mood and atmosphere in a lot of it. But there's another instrument on here, Sarangha, Saranghi, and I had to look that up. That's a bowed, short-necked string instrument from the Indian subcontinent, and it often is used, can very closely emulate the human voice. So that's used on Something on Your Mind too. So it makes it kind of interesting. But this is a nice song. The side one closes out with Mirrored Heart. This was sung originally by a group called FKA Wigs, W-I-G-S, FKA Wigs. And I really like this one because this features only Molly's voice and guitar. Now, the way they did this album in the pandemic was she put Pro Tools on her computer, and she got some more equipment in her house, and she recorded in one of her rooms in her home. She would record vocals and the guitar work, and then she would send it to the producer, Tony Berg, in Los Angeles, and then he would send out individually to the bass player. The bass player is Gabe Noel. Matt Chamberlain plays the drums and percussion. Patrick Warren keyboard, and there are a few other people on here. I already mentioned Zeberg does some vocals on here. I already mentioned the pedal steel player, and there's a handful of other people that come in for one song or so. But nobody was in the same room doing this. She sent her tapes to Los Angeles to the producer, Tony Berg, and then he would send it out to these other musicians, and in their own home studios, they would put their bass part on, their drum part on, and things like that. Maybe multiple variations so they could decide which one they like best. But that's how they did this album. It's a pandemic album. But Mirrored Heart, just her, and I really like this. She does harmony vocals, but she dubbed her own harmony vocals in with her part, and they decided not to use any other instruments on that one. Mirrored Heart. Now, side two, the tempo picks up. I really like on the first song on side two, and I really like this song. Now, this song is from a band called Rancid. Rancid? That sounds like death metal or something to me. I don't know who they are. I asked my daughter upstairs earlier. She said a 90s band. That's about all she told me about them. So it is called Olympia, Washington. The song is called Olympia, Washington. Very up tempo, kind of joyful. They kind of let loose. She lets loose on a short solo on this one. I'm going to do a needle drop on this one, and I'm going to make sure I include a little solo, short solo she does on this one. But it's very joyful. Lyrics like hanging on the corner and wish I was on the highway, kind of emphasizing this, we're in a pandemic, we can't go anywhere or do anything, you know, uh, commemorating the life before the pandemic when we could be on the go and exploring and seeing people and things like that. And this is a full, now whereas the last song on side one was just her and the guitar, her and her guitar. This one you get the full band treatment on this one, and this is a real mid tempo, I'd call it, but it really moves, and it's really nice tune. So here's Needle Drop on Olympia, Washington. All I know is for a pocket. She ain't ever showed up there. I watch 1,000 people go from work. Hanging on the corner of 52nd Broadway. Cars pass me by, but none seem to go my way. New York City, rush hours on the highway. Back to Olympia. And the second song on side two is Standing on the Moon, which is a Hunter Garcia composition performed by the Grateful Dead. And that's where the title to the album comes from. But I'd Rather Be With You is lyric from Standing on the Moon. And I have to say, I've listened to a lot of Grateful Dead over the years. This song didn't really stand out to me. Didn't really remember it, hearing it on any of the albums or tapes of Grateful Dead, or I did see the Dead 3 times in the mid 80s, early to mid 80s. And this song really was like hearing it for the first time when I heard hers. I did go back and listen to a Grateful Dead version of this, and she plays it a little bit faster than the version I saw. Of course, you go to a Dead show, they're not going to play any one song the same way 2 times in a row. But and she said this one, now she grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and she said she was not a huge Dead fan, but it was like living in the Bay Area. The Grateful Dead were just a part of your life. Everybody knew the Dead, and the songs were just kind of ingrained in you from living there, especially being in a musical family, living there. And she does a really good job on Standing on the Moon, I think. It's kind of, she described it as being kind of a sense of place song for her. She lives in Nashville now, so it took her back home. She couldn't literally go back home during the pandemic, so this song kind of gave her that feeling of home again. It's a very descriptive song. It's kind of like standing on the moon, looking down at the things that are going on, but he'd rather be there with you. So the pedal steel is used a lot in this one, and it was really a group effort on this song, even though they were all separate. It was kind of a group effort. Okay, the third song is by the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, Zero, and is the name of the song. This is an up-tempo kind of folk pop song by Molly. It's got a nice instrumental in the middle. And if my ear's not fooling me, and I'm going to do a needle drop on this one, I believe she is playing in that claw hammer guitar style during one of these solos. So if I get the right one on the drop, you maybe can hear what I'm talking about. Now it may not be, she could just be flat picking just so darn fast and cross picking, up down that it sounds more like she's brushing the strings. But so this is an interesting song called Zero. The next song on side 2 is called Sunflower Volume 6, and this is the Harry Styles song. And she said she doesn't know that much about Harry Styles' repertoire, but respects him as an artist, and really enjoyed this particular song. And I'd call this song a pleasant folk pop song. It could be a vocal performed by any number of female pop singers in the 21st century. But what makes it stand out and separate it from just any other pop song to me is the acoustic aspects of the song. That's what makes it stand out to me. Now the final track, the 10th track, the 5th track on side 2, is a Cat Stevens Yosef song. And the story behind this song is very interesting and kind of heartbreaking to me. How many of you, oftentimes we get dogs or cats when we're 5 or 6, 7 years old, and they're with us pretty much our whole childhood, and we go off to college, and sometime during our college years we get that phone call. Oh, that's the worst phone call. I got one my sophomore year in college. Halsey's, the dog, my Beagle Blue Tick mix, who I had spent my entire childhood since I was 4 years old. I remember picking him out when I was 4 years old, and because he was the runt, or she, excuse me, Halsey's, she was the runt. I picked her out then, and she was, with me my whole childhood, and I got that call when I was a sophomore in high school that she had passed away. Well, that's this particular song from Cat Stevens, How Can I Tell You, was the song that she played when she was in college over and over again when she got that phone call about her own pet back home 3,000 miles away. So this is a nice interpretation of the Cat Stevens song. It's the first time in the album. As I said, on most of this album, they used the pedal steel in a lot of places where I would have thought strings or a violin or cello would have been appropriate. Excuse me. But this is where that comes in. No other instruments except Molly on the guitar, a violin, a viola, a cello, and it's very appropriate. And listen to the song, "This Needle Drop I'll Do," and I think you'll enjoy it. This final song is a little bit different from the rest of the album, but not enough to make it, so not enough to make you go, why is that included here? No, it's just a subtle little difference, and maybe truer just to the singer-songwriter, folk singer, vocal interpreter type of vibe on this particular song, as opposed to what we get on the others.
How can I tell you that I love you? I love you, but I can't think of right words to say. I long to tell you that I'm always thinking of you. I'm always thinking of you, but my words just blow away. Just blow away. It always ends up to one thing, honey, and I can't think of right words to say. Oh, no, no, oh, oh. Wherever I am, girl, I'm always walking with you. I'm always walking with you, but I look and you're not there. Whoever I'm with, I'm always talking to you. I'm always talking to you. I'm sad because you can't hear. Sad that you can't hear. It always ends up to one thing, honey, when I look and you're not there. Oh, 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 oh.
This is, to sum up, a album that is by a totally 21st century artist, with emphasis on artist. The scaffolding she uses to create her art, while it's obviously traced back to 20th century music that she had been exposed to and played growing up, learning bluegrass, flat picking, various stringed instrument performance, plus classical training at the Berklee School of Music, music theory, composition, all those things. While, all those things go into what one creates, it is by no means a sitting on top of this music. It is her, clearly, she used those components to create something original and something new. It's all her own project. It is not the project of just mimicking, copying, or piggybacking on other work. It's her own creation. Now that's despite the fact that these are all cover songs on this album. What we have is an artist still in her 20s that's at least to me shows a very high degree of maturity and creativity. So, But I'd Rather Be With You is a very satisfying, enjoyable work. That said, she is currently working on original compositions for her next album uh, in the not too distant future. And let's see. Uh, but what I'd really, now this is personally for me, but what I'd really love to see is for Molly to get into a studio with a few similarly talented acoustic musicians and cut an album's worth, hey, maybe a double album's worth of instrumentals, maybe a mix of standards and original compositions. Uh, this artist is such an amazing musician. I wish she would give us that sometime. She could go in and she could go into a studio and in 2 or 3 days they could have, you know, 20, 30, 40 great uh, compositions put down, recording live in the studio. I know she could. It wouldn't take away from her songwriting or other aspects of her creativity. Just please give us that, Molly. That's all I ask. Give us one of those every once in a while, mixed in with your beautiful work, like this album and the album that came before it and the EP before that. We get to hear that in her live performance sometimes, and you can go to YouTube, and here on YouTube you can pull her up and you can find her doing things like White Freightliner and different songs that will just it'll blow you away. Her musicianship, um, is she's just so confident and subdued about her work in her playing. I just want her to show off. Come on, Molly, just show off sometime. It's okay. You know, she knows she doesn't have to show off. She knows how good she is, and she can show it in little short solos within a song structure and things like that. But man, if she ever let loose, uh, if and when she does, the public at large is going to just be amazed because she is a guitar slinger and she does it all with the acoustic. She doesn't need pedals and fuzz bars and wah wah, it doesn't need all that. She can do it with simply an acoustic guitar in her hands, and she will just amaze you. So that's my, and that's, I'm not putting down this album at all. I love this album; it's great. I'm just saying, please give us that in vinyl form. Every once in a while, every 5 years or something, put something like that out for us. Don't do it every 5 years. I'm getting too old for every 5 years. Put us one out every couple of years. That would be great. Okay, so if this sounds like something that you're interested in, I urge you to check out Molly Tuttle and her new album and her previous work as well. I'll tell you what, I'll try to put a couple of links here in the description of a couple of Molly's YouTube videos, and that'll be something you can maybe start with if these little needle drops don't give you enough of an idea of what you'd be experiencing. All right, everybody, remember, be kind to your neighbors because we're all neighbors. Take care. Oh, we came to be happy again. Back to the river again, again. Back to the